Hi, welcome to Programming Homework Help. I'm Neil Harding, and I'm programming for nearly 40 years now. It's getting up close there. So one of the things that I like with programming is that you have each program is a different challenge. I used to work programming games, and each game was different. It's a great job because each time you're doing something, you've got to come up with a new approach. And this is one of the things I've actually done whilst working with these sites. I've done. I said I had to write 6 copies of an assignment because I'd done one for somebody, and he told his friend, and so I ended up having to write another 5 copies, and each copy has to be totally unique and distinct because we don't want any plagiarism, and that was actually really difficult. It's easy to write a program, it's easy to write a different version of the program, but coming up with 6 different ones meant it wasn't just renaming variables, renaming functions. This was complete top to bottom reworking, and I couldn't even approach it in the same way. So, like one of them I used, it was a Java GUI application, so the way I constructed the buttons was different. The way I laid out the screens was different. All these extra features, they were all wrote in a completely different manner. I used different ways of dispatching the GUI events. It was each one written from scratch, and that was probably the most challenging thing I actually had to do here. But one of the things I have done is, as I said, I'll go through some of the programming languages I've covered myself, and I'll cover some of the other languages. So Python is probably the first language you'll use while you're at university. It's a really good language for beginners because you can write a Python program, your first Python program, within 10 minutes. It won't do a lot, but you can write your first program. It's a really easy to understand language, and it reads pretty easily. It reads like pseudocode, which is the fancy way of saying it reads like English almost, a structured form of English. So you can write, but Python has some quite hidden features. It's got the dictionaries built in, which allow you to have enormous flexibility when writing a program, and you've got all the other features of languages. You've also got overload operators, which I actually think you can make a program really nice by using those if you're careful. You have to. There's one of the features I actually think Python's better than Java for. So I've done quite a lot of Java, but I think Python's actually got the edge in terms of a programming environment, because you can write stuff in Python that would be more awkward to read in Java. Java is quite a popular language nowadays. In fact, I think it's the most popular language currently in use because it's difficult to make too many mistakes. You can't crash a machine easily in Java because it makes sure that when you're accessing a variable that it isn't null, it'll throw an exception. If you're accessing an array, if it's outside the bounds, it'll give an exception. And it's got a lot of extra security for stop a programs doing unexpected stuff inside the language itself. It's also missing some of the power of C++, which C++ allows you to do I've actually wrote a Java to C++ converter, and that wasn't too difficult. It took quite a few months trying to get it to perform in such a way that it was optimized, and because it was for mobile phones, so I needed something that was going to be really tight and compact. But one of the things with Java is you have, when you allocate a memory, it's automatically garbage collected. So that means you don't need to worry about memory allocation, deallocation, which you did C plus and C. So I automatically handle that using reference counting. So that was a pretty challenge. It wouldn't have been possible to do the reverse from a C++ program to a Java, because there are certain things you can do in C++. Like you can pretend a type is another type as long as, and it works as long as there are certain conditions you apply. But the problem is it can also there's no security to stop you doing it when those conditions don't apply, so you can end up with mistakes that would be very difficult to track down. And then assembly language is the final level of programming, and there's pretty much nothing to get in your way. If you make a mistake, the computer's not going to help you find it. Apart from potentially memory access, where you can get a page faults or something like that. But generally, if you've got a problem in an assembly language, you're going to have to find it yourself. The computer's not really going to help you much. Although in academic setting you tend to be using simulators, which then tend to actually provide a little bit more help and debugging. Assembly language is really useful for games or writing a device driver. So you probably use it in your second or third year courses for, say, a Linux thing to write a device driver, or maybe if you do something with it's a good knowledge of assembly language. It helps you debug programming in C++, and also helps you write more efficient code. So it is worthwhile using, even if you never program it directly afterwards. So, for example, a for loop. Once you've done assembly, you can see why for I equals 10 to then I greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus is better than for I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. There are things where just knowing the assembly language can mean you can generate slightly better code in the first place, which is useful if you're trying to get the most out of your machine. I started out with machines that ran at 1 megahertz, so computers nowadays tend to run at 3 gigahertz and multiple cores. So you're talking about 3,000 times faster, but you're dealing with, and had 64K or even less on the machines. You're talking about machines with thousands of times faster, but also with thousands of times more memory. So you want, still, efficiency is still important, even though the machines are so much faster nowadays. They can do so much more. I've got like a single JPEG wouldn't have fitted in the memory of my first computers. So just manipulating stuff like that, it would not have been possible. So it's one of the things with programming is that the challenges always change. You have to adapt with the times. But knowledge of the past actually helps you, because you can see, oh, this is where we've come from, and you can also predict sort of where we're going to. So processes are not getting faster really. they've been pretty much flatline the past 10 years, and we're going through parallel. So now we're working on OpenMP in different, or even GPU accelerated programming, and that's a whole different idiom, and you have to deal with synchronization, with locks, and so it's a different challenge now. But you can use the fact, as I said, a GPU, the programs you can run on a GPU, you run 1,000 of them at once, but they're fairly simple programs. So knowing what can be done is still quite useful. But as I said, I'll mention the other languages that I won't be helping you with. There will be others in the team that can help you with. So Lisp doesn't tend to be used as much nowadays. Scheme, I think, has replaced it. I'm not a big fan of Lisp. It was an older language. It's got some nice features, but I think Scheme is a slightly better modern version. I actually quite like Forth, although I'm not really aware of much use of that anymore. Then there's new languages like Ruby, Go from Google, Swift from Apple, and there's also what was it? There's a whole bunch of new languages. So if I've not mentioned your language, like Haskell, Erlang, and there's even stuff like MATLAB, which is not quite just a programming language. It's sort of like a programming environment. The MATLAB assignments tend to be a little more expensive, just because MATLAB is quite an expensive product to obtain if you're not a student. So we have to cover our costs. We have to include that. But get in touch with us, and we can let you know what we charge, and we can work with you. We provide guaranteed results. We work to make sure that any code we generate is completely done from scratch each time, so there are no problems with plagiarism. We've never had any plagiarism incidents because the code is completely fresh. And so please contact us and let us know if you want our help. Thanks. Bye.